Hey everybody, I am out and about again for my weekly update, so let me go and get set up and get the camera positioned in a good place, and I'll be sharing the latest Azure news with you and what I've been up to this week, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to today's weekly update. Thank you for joining me. For those watching on the video, you'll see that I am out and about again. I am exploring, I am taking the opportunity that the weather is glorious and we aren't in lockdown anymore in terms of being able to travel throughout Scotland. So I've come to a location that I have been to before, so I think my very first video for January 2021 was done here, or done just along the road with the same hill in the background, so you might recognise that, although the snow has cleared since that video was filmed. Now, as I said in my intro, I'm going to be talking about the Azure news and what I've been up to this week. And in terms of the Azure news, we have had a few announcements. It's been fairly light in terms of the news department, and there's two bits of news that I wanted to cover off. So first of all is one that's actually quite relevant to what I've been up to recently. So I've been preparing for a presentation about Azure networking and scaling with Azure, and dealing with how to scale your web applications or even just your workloads within Azure. So I presented a presentation earlier this week called Scaling with Azure to the Dutch Umbraco user group, and I was talking all about things like load balancer, application gateway, traffic manager, front door, CDN, Redis for cache, the whole host of things that I was talking about. And the bit of news that I want to talk about today is actually one of the features that I was talking about in my presentation has actually been generally available. So within Application Gateway, you now have the facility that's in generally available feature to rewrite URLs. So it's not just rewriting the URL though, so you can do things like header changes, and you can route the traffic depending on the original URL that hit the application gateway, or route them depending on what the rewrite actually says. So incredibly powerful feature, and one of the differentiators for Application Gateway when you're looking at the load balancer features within Azure. So very cool to see that. I'm very apt, given that I have been dedicating a lot of my time to understanding the different load balancer technologies within Azure. Now, I'm actually going to get my note out. Hopefully it's in my back pocket here, because the next one is about new virtual machine sizes. And I'm honest, I never remember all these various different SKUs. So we have had new M series, which are medium memory VMs for memory optimized workloads released. So we have the new MSV2 or MDSV2 SKUs within your virtual machines, and they can offer up to 4 terabytes of memory or 192 vCPUs, which is just a phenomenal amount of memory or CPU power. I don't know any workloads that actually need that, so I'd love to know if you have used a workload or if you've come across a workload that needs that amount of memory. Obviously I would love to have that if I was at home in my PC and I could afford that. It would make video editing and even just running Edge Team and my video editing software all together at once not having an issue. That would be pretty awesome, I think, to have that. Definitely think it wouldn't hit the utilisation of 4 terabytes worth of memory, but I'd give it a good go to try and see if I could use it. But if you've seen any workloads that use that, if there's a use case that you've actually experienced, then I'd love to hear from you and find out more about your experiences and whether these kind of new virtual machine SKUs are relevant to you and how you're using them. So definitely love that kind of feedback. So as I said, those that are watching on the video will notice that I'm out and about. This is a hill that I have climbed. I don't think I've got the shot positioned for the top of it. It's not a fairly tall hill. This side of the hill you can't really climb up. Well, you could. I think lots of rock climbers actually rappel down this side of the hill. If you kind of walk around it, there's a better track to actually climb the top of it. I don't think I've got the hill in the top of it actually in shot. But it's a hill I love. I did do once with my cousins and we got to the top, and there is a trig point at the top of it, and I couldn't get up on top of that, and that was fun, and we had a great laugh that night, but that was many moons ago. But I think it's just lovely. It's lovely to be here. It's lovely to be outside. Don't know if you can hear all the sheep outside. There's a couple of sheep out there that I think have misplaced their lambs and are calling for each other, and I passed tons of lambs on the drive up here. So if I've inserted any B-roll footage, it's because I've managed to get close enough to them to actually get some shots and show you some lambs. I definitely love a good pet lamb and would absolutely love one as a pet, although not very practical in my house. I think I'll need to wait until I eventually get some kind of farm or acreage where I can keep them properly. But yeah, this week has been full on. I think I talked about it last week about the amount of presentations that I have to prepare in the next few weeks, and 2 of them are done. So I've got 2 of them out of the way. They were very successful, I think, in terms of, you know, my delivery. I hope everybody that watched them enjoyed them. I think I did, given some of the feedback that I've received. As I said, one of them was about networking, something that I haven't dug into for a long while, something that isn't necessarily in my wheelhouse automatically. And I was diving into the load balancing options within Azure, and I did not really fully understand the capabilities that we had across those different load balancing applications. Like load balancer, traffic manager, application gateway, front door, phenomenal technologies and what they can do and how they can offer you. I used to think that those technologies were one or the other. Like, why would you use load balancer versus traffic manager, or why would you use traffic manager versus the front door capabilities that we have? And what I've actually come to properly realise over the last couple of weeks is that it's not an either or conversation. It's sometimes a combination of these technologies in order to provide the best experience for your end users who are accessing your workload that you're balancing, or you as a management point of view, giving you that protection level, the security protection with things like web application firewall. Just the phenomenal amount of technology and the capabilities of them. They all have differentiators. Some of them do have overlapping technologies, but some of them have great differentiators in being able to show you what's happening and route your traffic the way you want it to deal with it. And it's not just about load balancing in terms of things like, you know, a web app is a great example of potentially load balancing, and that was one of the demos that I built. You know, load balancing it across different regions and putting, you know, the end users that might visit a web app from Australia to the closest endpoint for them. You definitely probably don't want all your Australian visitors going all the way to the UK, because the latency and the performance of that isn't necessarily going to be great. You know, things like Traffic Manager can help you scope that and help you do that load balancing. But it's also things like disaster recovery as well. You know, I saw a scenario and I saw one of the architecture diagrams where it had Traffic Manager in front, and then it had all of your load balancing, all of your workload behind that Traffic Manager. And priority was set, so your primary region was doing all of the work. You know, it had scalable resources behind that Traffic Manager that could deal with that in a primary location scenario. But if something had went wrong with that primary region, you know, potentially there was a massive outage for the whole of that Azure region, what they could do is change the priority, change the routing within Traffic Manager to flip over to the secondary region that they had. And then your end users would probably only have a minor blip in terms of outage. And that's really only one change that you potentially have to make along the course of what's happening, because your primary region is a mirror of what your secondary region or your disaster recovery region is, or your disaster recovery region is a mirror of your front or your primary region. So phenomenal technologies that aren't just there for those that are looking at web applications, but also potentially looking at disaster recovery and helping you route your infrastructure and making it seamless and making those recovery times much seamlessness, or that's not even a word, I'm now just talking words. But it's been really interesting learning all that, and I think it's been great for me to actually take on that challenge. And thank you to my colleague Henk for inviting me to speak at that user group and actually put me outside of my comfort zone, because it's not an area I've talked about previously, but it's been great for me to actually learn and find that passion of setting up a demo and not having it work, and then trying to figure out how it works and figure out why something's not performing the way that I want it to perform or expect it to perform. So massive thanks to Henk for asking me, and for me also big pat in the back for being brave enough to say yes and to do that, and to hopefully share some great knowledge with other people and give them some great insights. Hopefully I didn't throw too much information at everybody that watched that session, but yeah, thank you for doing that. And also a huge thank you to everybody who responded to my call for action on Twitter a few weeks ago or a week ago when I said I'm building a demo, please hit this URL. The feedback that you gave me on what was happening with that traffic was invaluable. It also allowed me to help try and populate some traffic data within my Traffic Manager and actually show during my presentation, the demo of that. I do plan to share bits and pieces of that in other videos and other blogs, so please do check out that content on my blog. Hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel if you haven't already, so that you get notified of new videos when I do that. So lots of things to come out from that, and it's reignited my passion. If you watched my last video last week, I was talking again about the passion that's been reignited in me, and that's one of the things that's helped me reignite that passion of being technical and creating technical content that is, you know, not only useful but I enjoy creating as well. So that's been my week. Next week is another busy one for me. I think I've got a couple of more presentations I need to record for conferences that are coming up, and yeah, that'll probably be the end of April, which is just crazy that we're in the end of April, but loving this amazing weather that we've had. I think this is the driest April they're saying we've had for a while in Scotland, although I remember last April being kind of sunny as well, so not sure how accurate our weather guys have been or weather girls have been around that, but phenomenal. Thank you so much if you've made it to the end of this video. I always appreciate everybody that watches my videos, that likes my videos, that comments on them. I do interact with all the comments that you leave. Like I said at the when I was talking about the news, if you've been using those memory optimized workloads in your environment, you have great use cases for them, please reach out to me. Please let me know what your experience is. Please share those experiences. I'd love to learn more. I'm always looking to, you know, learn more, and as you'll see on my Twitter a few times, I use the hashtag never stop learning, and yeah, that's the mentality that I'm going with right now. So thank you again everybody for joining me today, and I will catch you in my next video.